and you're trying to figure out which retailers to focus on, I want to give you some quick tips and strategies and things to think about on how to get started today. So let's talk about Etsy products. First of all, it depends on which type of retailer you want to sell to. If you want to sell to a mass retailer, you're going to have to figure out how to be able to create your product in bulk so that the buyer can buy your product in bulk, because the big retailers obviously have a lot of buying power and they're looking for products that they can mass produce and put it in their stores. And that would require you to find a way to create your product in, say, a 5,000 unit order or a 10,000 unit order and so forth at a time. And so that could mean that you're building that out in your warehouse near your home and you have a lot of workers there, and or you're dealing with a manufacturer overseas. However it works, you're just going to have to figure it out that way. So that's one thing to think about. Also, if you want to sell to small retailers, boutiques, those are a lot easier to get into. The only challenge there is that it's just a lot more work, right? You got to open one account versus another and another and slowly build that out. And then you have to rely on reps for other states and so forth, unless you're going to drive in your car and try and open up accounts in different countries and so forth. There's a lot of opportunity. It's just how much time do you have? Do you have a family? What you're thinking about. I like bigger retailers because the bigger retailers can buy a lot of product, and my only job would then be to figure out how to fulfill those products in bulk and so forth. So I'd rather figure out the logistical side and then just get one person to buy a lot of volume of my product for me. So that's why I always lean toward the larger retailers, because I like to make money fast. And if you have a family and you don't have a whole lot of time to be driving around your product, then that might be the way to go. But some of you don't mind that. Some of you really like that hustle. And if that's you, that's fine. There's no wrong way to sell your product. So if you're going to pick which retailer to approach, what I always tell my customers is my money-making strategies require you to understand how many different ways you can sell to a retailer. You can sell to the corporate buyer who buys for all their corporate stores. And if you want to sell to Macy's, for instance, there is a buyer who buys products for all their stores. So they typically have, say, a jewelry buyer or a fashion accessory buyer and so forth. And that buyer is responsible for buying that product for all their stores. And then there's other retailers who sell and purchase products and so forth on a regional level, meaning that they can buy products regionally. And so that is another strategy, a distribution strategy, meaning that if you find out who the regional buyer is, you can actually get your products into stores on a regional level. And really that means is if a retailer has 500 stores they're responsible for, they actually break it down by region, like the Southeast region, Northwest region, or certain even more segmented than that. They usually are responsible for 100 stores instead of all thousands of stores. So if you have the ability to sell your product on a larger scale, but not so large, like you can't handle all the corporate accounts, a lot of retailers have regional buying offices and so forth, and you can sell to them. So for instance, North used to buy on a regional level. They just changed it to corporate, but for a long time they had a woman accessory buyer in the Northeast region, a woman accessory buyer in the Southwest region and so forth. And so a lot of retailers still do that. It just Nordstrom kind of changed the game recently, but it is possible to sell to retailers on a regional level. So that just means that you won't be stressing out over how much quantity they would buy. So if there are retailers you're trying to sell to and you can sell on a regional level, that might reduce the stress in terms of the volume that they would buy on day one. And some of you are making handmade products, so that could be stressful for you. And so that's an alternative way. Another way to sell to a retailer is on a local level. A lot of retailers allow their store manager and or the owner to purchase for individual stores and so forth. And so that's also for boutiques, convenience stores and so forth, like 7-Eleven, Ace Hardware, like all those retailers buy on a local level. Walmart even buys on a local level, meaning that they'll allow you to sell to one individual store. A lot of grocery chains sell on individual stores. I don't know what your product is, if it's an accessory or a creative product or whatever, or Hallmark card, whatever it is, you can sell to retailers on a local level. And so you could get the big brand name, meaning that you sold to that big retail chain, but only sell to one individual store. So for those of you, again, who are having trouble creating your product on a massive scale, that would support you as well. And then ultimately the type of retailers that you could sell to really vary based on your product type, right? So most people who have jewelry products that are high end usually focus on the department stores of the world, but some people ignore the discount department stores and retailers. Could you take your fancy product that you create that's $100 or whatever that you're selling on Etsy, and could you create a new version of that product and basically make it cheaper, like $20 instead of the $100, put it under a new brand, a new name, and then change kind of the description of the company or whatever, and then just sell a secondary product to the mass market audience to make a lot of money. I'm sure you're very design oriented and you're making really cool stuff. Doesn't the world deserve the opportunity for them to purchase your product, whether or not they can afford it at $100 or not? So a lot of my clients who create high-end products create a new version of the product that's under a different brand name so it doesn't hurt their reputation and so forth, but they make money that way. And so if you're willing to go beyond just being the new exclusive, and you're willing to take a few of your design elements and sell it to a lot of people for a cheaper price, but then it's a completely different company, it actually could pay for your nicer, newer products and stuff and help you work with your manufacturer better and so forth. A lot of my high-end clients actually create a second business selling a cheaper product, making some money off of that to sustain their more fancier products and so forth. And I have no qualms to say this to you, but most people who sell high-end products tend to not make as much because there's just not as many people who can buy your product. Doesn't mean that I don't buy expensive product. It just tends to be less department stores you can sell to than, say, the rest of the crowd. So if you're willing to look at it that way, that's an opportunity. Doesn't mean that you can't make a lot of money with high-end products. It just means that it's just a different audience looking in a different way, pivoting what you're already doing. And I see a lot of really successful high-end fashion people doing that as well, and making a small bundle and not hurting their brand at all. So anyways, I hope that provided value for you. There's so many different ways to slice and dice this and to teach you how to make money with your physical product if you're on Etsy. If you want to learn more, I actually have a training system called Retail MBA, and I have other programs as well. But essentially the bottom line is I teach people how to make money with their physical product, selling to small retailers, mass retailers, mid-sized retailers, all the different types of retailers. I break it down by product category and so forth. And really my end goal is just to help you know what you need to do in order to grow your business exponentially, whether or not you just only have a high-end fashion product or you have a second product that you're willing to explore and so forth. You can take a look at retailmba.com to learn more. Otherwise, please subscribe to this channel, and we're providing constantly new content, so please join us, subscribe, and be on the next lookout for the next video or training that we create. And again, this is Karen Waksman, Retail MBA. Please comment below if you like this training, and we are here to support you. Thanks so much.